Today we're talking about living in joy. And we're talking about the idea, the power of imagination. 12 years ago, we were at the Angelica Theater just down the street. Gene and I think Stephen, my son, was with us. And we walked out after seeing The Way of the Peaceful Warrior. And I said at that time, if I were to start a spiritual center, it would be in this area. I wasn't in ministerial school at that time. And look here we are, living a dream. But the dream started with an imagination. And that's the real key thing here. That's where the creative process is always beginning. It's always beginning within us. It's not outside of ourselves. And what we've got to come to understand, what we're seeking all the time, is that we live in a mental universe. And that mental universe is constantly responding to our thoughts and our feelings. Whatever we have in our belief structure, that system is birthing into our experience, and we cannot escape it. So whatever our lives are today, whatever it is looking like, whatever it is feeling like, it is the process of the sum total of every thought that is buried in our conscious and our unconscious mind, and it is demonstrating as that. The great thing is that we have the power to change that expression by altering our thoughts. It's just that simple. It's just not easy. So I want to talk about this idea, and I want to go back to Ernest Holmes. And so Ernest Holmes said, there is an irresistible, universal, and divine urge within us to be happy, to be whole, and to express the fullness of life. The latent divinity within us stirs our imagination, and because of its insistent demand, impels and compels our growth. When we really sit and we look at that simple sentence, we find that there is the key to life. Because we all know there is something inside of us pulling us to want to be more. And when we are not listening, we're not honoring that pulling from within, we have pain. We have pain, we have disease, we have lack, we have all of those things that we don't desire. But when we are connected with our divine beingness and we are being pulled in the direction of a higher expression, a higher creativity, we are in a state of joy. It doesn't matter about what the circumstances are around us, who's in our lives, but when we're being pulled forward, that's the divine, that's the allness of everything calling us forward to be what? To be unique. We were never brought here to imitate, replicate, or be like anyone else. We were not brought here to redo and be like someone else. We were not brought here to be like our mothers, our fathers, our ancestors. We weren't brought here to be like people we work with. We were brought here to be unique. And the reason we can be unique is we have the power, we have the gift of imagination. And this is the gift that we have squelched so often, saying, well, I've got to find out how they did it, and how they did it, and how they did it. And we're relying on powers outside of ourselves to give us the ideas, and what we're doing is we're subordinating ourselves to ideas that are not authentically ours. Does that make sense? Everyone has an opinion for your life, do they not? Yes. And is their opinion for your life in your highest good? No. Because you're unique. No one knows what is right for you. Only you do. And that you do is your voodoo. I had to throw that in. I just love that line. Do that voodoo that you do so well, you know? That's so perfect. Harvey Korman, the great spiritualist. Blazing Saddles, one of the more metaphysical movies that has ever been on the planet. See, that's the joy. You see, Blazing Saddles was what? It was a creation out of imagination. It was not replicating anything that has ever been done before. It was the imagination within Mel Brooks coming forth through these magnificent actors that took his vision and impelled their imagination into the characters that created that spectacular, laughable movie. It is imagination that causes artists like our beautiful man Eddie and Stephen Curry and Alex and all of the musicians and David, all the musicians that come here. It is their imagination that makes them unique. They're not here to be like anyone else. So we have a beautiful sister here today, and she's from California, Agape. She's just moved here from there. And when I introduced myself to this beautiful young lady, I said, "You've come to the right place, but we're different here." You see, we're not here to replicate anyone in the universe. We're here to create a unique expression, and it's not me creating it. It's us creating it. Because this is a community. That's what I really want to express. It's a community where every person here has an influence. It has an energetic, and when those energies come together, it forms something spectacular. It becomes the safe place that we're all looking for, where we can go within, understand the divine nature that we are, see the divine nature that is in others, then take and be in that safe place, use our imagination, and start to create what is the next step for my unfoldment? What is the next thing I desire to create, to experience in this world? And you see, this idea of creating and imagining, it's in every aspect of your life. I'm married 40 years. I am constantly seeking to imagine a new way of doing relationship. I am constantly seeking that in being a minister. I'm seeking that in being a father. I'm seeking that in managing money. I'm always seeking, using my imagination to become more, because you see, that is the divine urge. It is that thing within us, is that when we are not following our divine urge, we are bored. We are miserable. When you are feeling bored and you're not looking forward to anything, go into imagination. You see, what I'm understanding now is that we've got these spiritual practices that we talk about at Agape, and we've based the cornerstone of what we teach on meditation and what we call spiritual mind treatment. Spiritual mind treatment is a form of affirmative prayer. It is never beseeching a God outside of ourselves. It's declaring from within, where the God presence exists, that we are now in that place, because we're recognizing that's within us. But you see, when you have these two powerful tools, there are things you can use with it. So in looking at the idea of imagination, we go into a place where we become still. And when we become still, we quiet the monkey mind. We quiet our habitual thought patterns, because our habitual thought patterns keep generating the life that we are now. So we get still. Everything quiets down. And now we say, what can I imagine? What can I see a little bit differently, a little bit differently, a little bit differently? And we allow that to percolate. And we start to percolate. And then once we've built that image, that new image that is beyond what we've been in the past, now we do our prayer work. Because now we have what we want. We're not praying for the same thing. We're praying to create more. You see, the basic premise that we teach at Agape is this. We teach that God is infinite, all-knowing, everywhere present, always has been and always will be. Call it universal mind, call it spirit, call it Buddha, it doesn't matter what you call it. But it's infinite. Meaning if it's infinite, there's nothing outside of it. It can't be. It cannot exist. There cannot be a God out there and us here. It's impossible. If that's the case, then there's duality, there's separation. Separation cannot exist in a God that is infinite. So if that is the case, then we are one with it. We are the wholeness and allness of God right here, and the creative power to create is right within us. And so we have the ability to use it, and we've been given that ability through the sum total of our thoughts. And so what we do is we've got this consciousness within us that has been with us based on our parents, society, our school system, our experiences up until this point. And that consciousness, whether we realize it or not, is creating everything in our lives. So to shift that consciousness, the only thing we can do is we've got to think a new thought, and that's where we imagine. A beautiful woman here in Fort Worth, she'll be speaking here in June, by the name of Mindy Audlin. Mindy was a minister in Wimberley, Texas, and she wrote a book called What Is Up? And that book was taking this idea, this is your life, and this is an aspect of your life, so what's the next up from there? And then over here, what's the next up? So you're always asking the question, what more can I create? What more can I be? What more can I experience? Does that make sense? So those type of questions, when you're asking what more can I create, is a lot different than oh my God, what's happening to me? Oh my God, who did that to me? Or we get with our friends and we form the triangle about people, or we start gossiping, or we talk about useless things. I'll be very honest, I have very little time for nonsense. Because what I'm finding is that the inner calling to create, the inner calling to be more, to do what I love to do, causes me extreme pain when I'm not there. Does that make sense? So when I'm feeling that pain, that's just simply a sign that I'm not a bad person, that I'm not doing anything wrong. It means I've just moved off my course. And so now I can shift my course with new thoughts and imagining my life as different. You see, when we can get that picture and we start to imagine a color red, a color blue, and we start, every day we add a little stroke onto that picture, we're creating a slide. And when we create that slide, that God light shines through that projector, and that becomes our life. So imagination is allowing us to take that visual slide that we've put in front of the light and to shift it so we can start experiencing it differently. So every day the key is, how can I imagine my life better? How can I imagine my partner and I getting along better? How can I imagine more money flowing to me? How can I imagine being in a healthier body where I get to experience the sensations of human form? How can I imagine being in a state of oneness? Wednesday night, Gene and I went to the Moody Blues. And Moody Blues are one of our favorite groups of all time. We saw them in 1971 on our second date. And the Moody Blues, as I listened to the music itself is phenomenal, but the lyrics, you realize that these people were ministers. They were giving secrets of the universe. And Justin Hayward, he got up there and he said, here's a mantra that I have done 5 minutes of my life since I wrote this song. And he said, no matter what I do, no matter where I go, no matter what I say it in love. Can you build a life? Can you imagine what a life would be if you did and said everything with love? Can you imagine what you would attract into your life? Can you imagine how people in your lives who right now are causing pain because you feel pain about that, if you did it with love, how they would switch in your lives right this moment? They have no choice because you become a magnet and you have to attract that which you have become. It is law. What we understand is when we talk about the law of attraction, the law of cause and effect, it's all the same law. When you put it out there with such belief and such conviction, it must be. See, one of the things that I studied as I became the minister in this movement is this. It either works all the time with every person or it's just nonsense. And I'm not going to get up here and talk to you about nonsense. I'm talking to you about things that I've proven for myself. And there are people in this room, if you talk with them, they will tell you this works. But it's a commitment to a way of life that honors who you are, not what other people think you are. It is the divine. So when you build the idea, the concept of a spiritual practice where you dedicate a few moments every day to meditate, when you dedicate the idea of prayer, setting an intention for the day, all prayer is, let's get this out on the table, all prayer is thinking, being, doing what you want in every moment. That is what praying unceasingly is. If every word you speak is on love, you will have love in your life. There's no magic formula. There are no magic words. People hear people talk and do prayer. People say, Lee, you pray so eloquently. It's just the words that I say. They're words that I believe. It doesn't matter what my words are. It's what is the feeling I've got there? What is the intent of these words? And anyone can do it now because everyone here knows what they want. And when they put their zest, their heart, their whole beingness in, and they imagine the outcome as if it were now, that prayer's done. It's absolutely done right here, right now. Your lives were never meant to be stagnant. You were never meant to be ill. You were never meant to be poor. You were never meant to be separated. You were meant to experience the fullness that this life has to offer. I'm looking at you and say, what life will you choose from today forward? Are you going to empower yourself and be the magnificence that you've come to be? Are you going to empower yourself and be the magnificence that you want to be? As I look at you, I know who you are. I see your perfection. I see the imagination of the possibility of the greatness of who you are in every aspect. I will always see that, because to not see that will deny the existence of God. I want to thank you for joining us today. I am so grateful that you took your time to watch or listen to this message. If you found this message beneficial, I would ask you to go to our website. Once there, click on the Contribute button and experience the joy of conscious and purposeful giving. It is through your gifts that we are able to bring this message to the world. I would also ask you to please share this message with anyone you feel might benefit. Again, I want to thank you for joining me and the Agape community as together we bring joy to life.